This video is for anyone who's wanted to know more about what's been going on with Holy Priest, as it's gone through quite a couple of changes since the start of Dragonflight, and realistically it's in a very good spot. I like the build diversity and even the stat diversity that players are bringing to the table right now, and so I'm going to break some of those down for you. If you're interested at all in Holy Priest, or you've ever wanted to get into healing and you stumbled into this video, it might convince you to give Holy Priest a try. I actually think it's kind of magnificent at teaching the fundamentals of healing, while also providing quite the room for mastery, player ability to show just how good they can be at this game. And I think by getting better at Holy Priest, I've made myself a better healer, and I think just about anyone would become a better healer after giving Holy Priest a serious shot. So if you want to step up your skills, or if you just want to start with a healer that works on the fundamentals, I got you. My name is BowserTheHealer, and I play just a little too much healer, so if you like that kind of content, hey, get subscribed to mean a lot to me, or if you just like listening to me talk about World of Warcraft, hey, appreciate you. There are a lot of viable builds for Holy Priest, and when I typically make these videos, I do a lot of research into what other people are running, just to make sure I'm not like off my rocker, you know? Like I like to cross-reference and make sure I'm doing my job in the research department, and there are so many viable builds and even stat weight spreads. We're going to get into all of that, but I do want to talk about some of the core things that are taken in most builds so that you have an idea of how this works. If you're new to Holy Priest, this should be the part that might get you interested in the spec, but it all comes down to Divine Image. Whenever you cast a Holy Word spell, you summon an image of Naru at your side for 9 seconds. Whenever you cast a healing or damaging spell, Naru will cast a similar spell, and of course, if you already have one out, you will empower the Naru, making them stronger. So this means I can hit my big single target heal, and look, I pop up a Naru. If I hit another one, Naru will get bigger. And Naru's going to continue to attempt to replicate any heals that I do, which is very useful. But also, this works for damage as well, meaning that Naru is a very versatile piece of equipment that when you have a Naru out, you can go immediately from blasting to healing, and then from healing to blasting in a moment's notice. One of the core features of Holy Priest is that you're really not tied down to anything. It's very easy to pick up and do something else. So if somebody's taking damage, you can quickly swap from healing. And actually, I think using your Holy Word Chastise to start your damage is one of the best healing habits you can have. Run into a pole and get your Chastise out. That way, if someone does take damage, you already have an image of Naru out. And if it fades, you've likely already cooled it down quite a bit with Holy Fire and Smite. And speaking of, the Holy Words get cooled down by your other moves. So Holy Word Chastise is an incapacitate or stun if you talent for it. It does some damage and summons a Naru, also giving you access to 2 instant cast Holy Fires that you can immediately spend for some cooldown reduction and some great contribution to damage. If you do this and like put a Shadow Word Pain on a target, that's it. That's all you really need to know about damage on Holy Priest to get started. It's that easy. Your Serenity is a big single target heal, and I mean it's a massive single target heal. So use this to catch back up, or to say Giga heal somebody in an AoE setting. So let's say like everyone's taking damage. One person might be taking more damage or have no defensives. Feel free to use a Serenity on them as you go to heal other targets. Your Sanctifies the AoE heal, and while it's a little weaker compared to the other spells, it's still quite strong, and there's ways for us to power it up. But your Renew will reduce its cooldown by 2 seconds, and your Prayer of Healing will reduce it by 6 seconds, but this is only taken in the AoE build, which I will be talking about. I just wanted to mention it's not always taken. The feedback loop, though, of starting your heals and swapping to damage, going from damage and swapping to healing, and cooling down your moves is incredibly fun. All of this is going on while you have Prayer of Mendings, which you throw on a target, and simply put, it'll heal them when they take damage and then jump to a new target. It doesn't look like it's doing a lot. With a tooltip of 21,000, it can feel kind of weak. But trust me, when they're bouncing around an arena and there's a bunch of damage going out, they get a ton of work for you done. And remember, any kind of healing that's hands off is really strong. Similarly, just so you know, Shadow Fiend being a 3-minute gets you your mana back, and it sounds like it's more of a Disc or Shadow Priest thing, but with the ability Essence Devour, you can get a ton of healing out of this little guy, who will just start slapping mobs for you and healing up your allies. Again, completely hands off. And this sometimes maths out to around 1 million healing for its 15-second duration. If you combine this with the Prayer of Mendings, you can make it through some crazy mechanics, and this is all on top of while you're doing your standard healing routine. So how do you actually heal on this spec though, speaking of? Well, that's sort of the thing. You use heal and flash heal in your holy words as needed to heal people as they die. Yeah, if somebody's low on health, pick them back up. If multiple people are low on health, you're gonna have to figure out who to heal next. This is called triage, and it's a bit of a complicated process, and I actually have a video on it all the way back in season 1 if you want to learn more. But essentially, you, the tank, and people with battle reses are very important to keep alive, first and foremost, but everyone's going to need to stay alive, and realistically, you're going to spend a lot of time healing people, so see who has defensives running, see who has invulnerabilities, and see who's maybe the squishiest on your team. You might want to even focus them if you think you can save them. And then furthermore, you can use things like Guardian Spirit to give someone a cheat death and with any luck, hopefully make them a little more safe and save their life if they end up dying. But they'll receive boosted healing, which again is really great for just managing who's gonna die and who you don't want to die and keeping the party upright. Press your buttons, hit your holy words, and allow that loop to start moving. And there's a couple other really nice abilities that you can weave in there as well. Like you might have your power infusion on someone, giving you and them 20% haste for 15 seconds, which is a mini bloodlust. That's disgusting. You might have your emergency cooldown of apotheosis running, giving you 20 seconds of 300% holy word cooldown reduction bonus, and making all the holy words completely free. That's a fantastic button. You also can give people back their defensives with Symbol of Hope, which is a bit, well, it's good, but do you expect your pugs to hit your defensives? No, but I still like it. And remember, everyone's just a little bit tankier with you in the party because of Powered Fortitude, granting them 5% bonus stamina. However, let's talk about those builds, because there were a lot of them, and what you're looking at on the right side right now is a very standard Holy Priest build that I really like, and I'll walk through some of its core talents and then some of the swaps. And then there's one vastly different build that I'll show off as well, that's the more AoE focused one. So this build, right, as a core, whether you're running Divine Images or we go Lightwell or whatever we do down here, the core ones are Trail of Light. When you cast Heal or Flash Heal, 25% of it is replicated on the previous target that you healed. So if I heal this right side dummy and then this left side dummy, you'll see that I continue to heal the other one. And again, we have a talent that's making us receive some of that healing as well. So it's actually possible to get 3 targets worth of value out of these heal and flash heal, which makes this a very potent talent node, as we're getting a ton of healing out of literally one cast. In addition, Renewed Faith. Your healing on allies with Renew is increased by 6%. Our tier set bonus is that when we have Renews running, we can get charges of our holy words back for free, Serenity and Sanctify. So right now, if I cast this Serenity, it doesn't even consume the charge, and it was at half mana cost. But this can stack twice, so you can get one that is completely free as well, and have somewhere in the range of 4 Serenities back to back before you run out of charges, which is kind of crazy. But also our Serenity and Sanctify put Renews down. So it's possible to get not only the 6% bonus healing on targets, but also to sort of get more feedback loop from using our holy words. And then they give us free casts of our holy words, as long as we still have a charge. And if you're out of charges, remember that Apotheosis will actually give all of your holy words a charge. Now, is this like Atonement and you need to kind of like ramp this up like this and hit everyone in the party? No, not really. You don't have to do this. However, if there's a big mechanic coming up or someone's taking a lightweight amount of damage, throwing a Renew to start isn't a bad idea, especially if you have time. And with your bonus mana regen from the talent Enlightenment, this isn't a huge deal, but it can be nice, especially for bigger mechanics. If you ramp up an entire party or say do something like Sanctify back to back to give everyone Renews, you are getting bonus healing on top of all of that. It's pretty powerful, so I do recommend it. Now, another core talent, and it's not always taken, but it's worth mentioning, Pontifex and Resonant Words. Pontifex is that when you cast Flash Heal, Heal, Prayer of Healing, and Circle of Healing, it increases the healing done by your next Holy Word spell by 6%, stacking 5 times. And it lasts 30 seconds. This is excellent, meaning that you can power up Sanctify even if you're not running an AoE healing build and get yourself a more powerful AoE heal, or just to crank some disgusting Serenity into a target, or to do a little bit more damage if nothing's going on. Pontifex is a very important talent node, and I try to take it whenever I can. And then feel free to go to Light of the Naru to get more cooldown reduction, or Resonant Words to kind of have the inverse effect. By casting a Holy Word, you increase the healing of your next Flash Heal, Heal, Prayer of Healing, or Circle of Healing by 20%. It's 40% at 2 ranks, but even at 1 rank, you're going to get a decent amount of value out of this, so I highly recommend you grab it. one of the big builds will go down here. Desperate Times, this is a big one too. Increases the healing by 20% on friendly targets at or below 50% health. When you combine this with Everlasting Light, heals restore up to 50% additional health based on your missing mana, and Twist of Fate, after damaging or healing a target below 35% health, gain 10% increased damage and healing for 8 seconds, you can pick people back up very easily. And if you're ever running low on mana, you're getting more value out of that mana, which will also reduce how much mana you're consuming. So again, more feedback loops that really play into good triage and good thinking. So Desperate Times, kind of strong, but just below it is Divine Word. This is a 1 minute that's going to make your next Holy Word Serenity, Sanctify, or Chastise 30% more effective, and then of course grants you a Divine Favor. The two most important here are Chastise and Serenity. Chastise increasing your damage by 20% and refunding 15 seconds off of itself. Sanctify is a little bit weaker, but it blesses the target area and heals up to 5 allies. It's useful, it's good, I find value in it. But typically speaking, I'm hitting Serenity, because Flash Heal, and Renew, healing 30% more and costing 20% less mana, is a godsend for ramping and for blasting heals. And it's not like it adjusts one heal, it is a 15-second window of more heals. So this is a very flexible, very potent ability, and I highly recommend that you bring it. But you don't have to bring it all the time. In fact, some people completely get rid of it. And some people don't even take Desperate Times, although I basically always recommend Desperate Times. Some people run this. So this move is called Lightwell, and you're going to drop a Lightwell on the ground, and I'll have footage of it because I don't want to put it on a 2-minute cooldown right now. But when you put it on the ground, the 2-minute cooldown starts, and if anyone drops below 50% within 40 yards of it, they'll be healed for 39,000 tooltip and get a renew on them for 6 seconds. Now, it's actually a bit more powerful than you think. Again, remember, background healing is really powerful. If you have Prayer of Mendings jumping around and your Lightwell healing people, it does a lot of work. Unfortunately, it also will heal anything. So this can work on Afflicted, which can maybe be helpful when the Afflicted gets really rough, but I wouldn't waste a 2-minute on Afflicted, but it will be there probably when Afflicted spawns, so it's okay. But also, like, the last boss of Noku Defensive, there's like Onara. Like, Onara's just chilling, and you'll heal Onara, and it'll waste the whole Lightwell. And I don't even know if it targets players first and foremost. So it has some dubious problems to it, but I still run it on Noku Defensive because it's such a lovely bring for that storming boss on Tyrannical. Lightwell saved my buns. Now, if you don't like Lightwell, you might like Lightweaver. Now, in a more AoE focused dungeon, this won't be as strong, but Flash Heal reducing the cast time of your next heal within 20 seconds by 30% and increasing its healing done by 15% is really powerful because it allows your Trail of Light and your Cleave healing and your Triage healing to be much more potent, and it stacks up to 2 times. So you could like Flash Heal, heal, Flash Heal, heal, Flash Heal, heal. You'll save on mana and you'll do even more healing. It's a good talent, but again, it'll be lacking in the AoE department. Now, some people even run Restitution, which turns your, when you die, you turn into a Spirit of Redemption. That actually turns into a cheat death, but then it can't activate for 10 minutes. I've seen this run in 15s, so it's not like you can't run this. Now, there is another big build here that people do run, and I want to show it off, and that's called, I like to call it the Holy Circle build. The Holy Circle build takes Prayer of Healing, which, okay, this move sounds abysmal on paper, and I'll explain why it isn't, but it's 11,000 mana for 21,000 AoE healing. That's pathetic. That is terrible. That is like not worth the value. But remember, it cools down our Sanctify. Our Sanctify, when we cast it, will power up our next Circle of Heal or Prayer of Healing in addition to our other heals with Resonant Words. So by casting Sanctify, you make Prayer of Healing stronger. By casting Prayer of Healing, you're making Sanctify stronger because of Pontifex. And then furthermore, this is in conjunction with Circle of Healing, which also sounds underwhelming. A 9-second cooldown, heals the target and 5 injured nearby allies for 25,000 tooltip. Yeah, once again, doesn't sound good. And with the feedback system, it's pretty good. With renews making targets receive increased healing, it's okay. But Healing Chorus, your renews healing increases the healing done by your next Circle of Healing by 5%, stacking up to 20 times. This, however, is powerful because you're going to get this all the time. And so you can kind of use all these moves in conjunction and layer them together to actually do quite a bit of AoE healing. Now, it is going to cost a decent amount of mana, but remember, we have Enlightenment, so we will regenerate some of that mana And of course, depending on our tier set, we might get a couple of charges of Sanctify for free, further reducing how much mana we're spending in these rotations. This has less cleave healing. Notice that we don't take Trail of Light. However, you can still run Divine Word or even Lightwell with this build if you so choose. So you can have a ton of AoE healing in here. And some people even run Lightweaver with this build to make up for the lack of cleave healing and value that they might lose with this build. Honestly, my favorite part about all of this, these were all from 15s. I sourced all these builds from 15s. I myself came up with my own build that was identical to the one you saw earlier, but everyone else was running these variations and they're clearing dungeons. Now, the stat weights, another kind of silly category, it's hard to put into words how funny I find this, but everything's viable. As long as you have a high haste, you can get away with almost anything. So haste, right? I recommend hitting 30% or higher on Holy Priest, and I'm not kidding. Whatever feels comfortable to you, just don't keep this low. Because you have to do a lot of single target healing, going faster means more heals, meaning more cooldown. And thus, when mechanics are hitting harder, you're gonna wanna have a high haste to keep up. But how high? Well, somebody was running 8,000 haste with every other stat being in the 1,000 territory. And they're clearing a 15 no-coup defensive. I think it was no-coup. It was either no-coup or Ruby life pools for that one. Then a lot of people are running high versatility, which makes sense. Strong backbone means more damage and more healing throughput. I highly recommend, no matter what you do, a good solid amount of versatility goes a long way. And normally mine looks a little more like this because I drink a tepid verse flask, so it's closer to 4,000. But then critical strike. Critical strike is just as viable. Doubling big numbers makes them bigger. We love big numbers, but we also have a talent in here that gets taken in many builds, increases the critical strike chance of flash heal and heal by 8% and then 15% at max. Yeah, having an additional 15% on your strongest healing buttons that you use all the time that aren't like a cooldown, that's also very potent. And so you can imagine running a high crit will work really well with that. Now, I tend to run a high mastery, which is that your direct healing spells heal for an additional mastery percentage over 4 seconds. But your mastery is kind of putting in work no matter what you do and how much mastery you have, so you don't have to overthink this one. But I'm running a high mastery because I'm running a high mastery discipline priest build right now. And my items, please don't go off of my items. I do recommend Ominous Chromatic Essence and Dreambinder, Loom of the Great Cycle. I also recommend the 2 healing trinkets from Amirjasil, Blossom of Amirjasil, and the Smoldering Seedling as their great trinkets. But please, I've gotten like the worst loot luck on my priest. We're not gonna, this is not a prime example of stats. So I'm running a high mastery, and other people run high mastery and it works out great for them. Some people are running this kind of smattering of all stats in a high haste and it's working. Some people are going giga on the crit and the haste with decent versatility and dumping their mastery. All of it's fine. So play around with what feels good to you. Experiment with your stats. But if people are clearing 15s with no problems, or maybe some problems, but they're clearing them, obviously, they're timing some of these tough dungeons with this wide of a variety of stat weights, go crazy. Because sometimes you're stuck in like a single stat allocation as a spec. I don't often get to tell you to go crazy with the stats. So have fun with this one. And have fun with Holy Priest. If you want me to do a breakdown of pulls and how they work, I would love to. But this spec is absolutely worth your time. From the AoE healing builds to the very strong and high damage cleave builds, I love what Holy Priest brings. Again, it's that focus on triage that I find just so interesting, that makes players just better at the game than they would ever think. Because you have to focus on fundamentally how to get through a dungeon and how to manage your time. The better you are at casting and managing that time, the more value you get. And with skills like Apotheosis that work with all of that rotation and really allow you to express how good you are at the spec, the skill cap's high, but the barrier to entry is nice and low. And I honestly can't recommend Holy Priest enough. So if you want that guide, let me know, but I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, friends.